What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Shaping Success is brought to you by Shade Bros in Boise, Idaho. If you are in need of window coverings, please give us a call, 208-99-SHADE. I actually know the owner pretty well. Well, that's because he's me. So give us a call, set up an appointment today, and we'll get you taken care of. Robert Watson, what is happening, man?
Good morning and happy Monday. It is another fine day in this great state of Texas.
Very nice. I wanted to talk this morning because I was thinking about it. You know, there's a lot of things that, as this new business is going on, that I think about every single day. And I was scrolling through a book. You know, like I have some great friends, and I think one of the cool things about being, you know, hanging around with people like you and my friend Chuck, who is the guy that I went to high school with, is we send books to each other and things like that. And I think we might have talked about this before, but I revisited it. The book is called Chop Wood and Carry Water, and it's by Joshua Medcalf, and it's a fiction book, but it's really about life in general. And he goes into be a samurai archer, but they don't have water and they don't have heat in this cabin that he stays in. And they talk about every single day, the first thing that you have to do is chop wood and carry water, because you have to have heat and you have to have water. And a lot of times I think about life and about like getting back to the basics and what we have to do in order to make sure that we are getting the things done that we need to do. And heat and water is a very basic thing. But the story is great. And I think that, you know, I think everyone should read it just to understand kind of like the mindset that you have to go through and that we carry with ourselves when it comes down to doing anything in our life. You know, we talked about making your bed. We talked about, you know, just the things you do. I spent all weekend building fence and building a wood rack and doing some things. And you're just sitting there thinking like, these are basic things. But when I was measuring the wood, I was going through and I was measuring it, putting my T-square on it, then going back and taping it again to make sure that I made the cut exactly how it was every single time to make it the right length. Because, you know, you can take it and you can put it on the chop saw and you can cut it. And if you don't have the blade right on the line or where it needs to be, you cut it short or you cut it long, then you got to do it again. But
it's the old measure twice, cut once.
Yep, exactly. But that's the thing about life that I think that if we can be repetitive in everything that we do or increase what we're doing and just be a little bit better every single day, we're going to be better in life, you know?
And God, that's so really zones in on a friend that I had lunch with yesterday, right? She is in her early 50s and she's competing nationally in CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in her efforts are inspiring because I kind of know the backstory. See, everybody looks at the video and they never see the backstory or know what people go through.
Right.
And I realize how much I like to have people that inspire me around me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily people that are getting everything right, that I know that people are continuing to try, right? And there are so many people that have quit,
mm-hmm.
right? They've quit on one aspect or another. And my whole point to this is, why did you quit? Why are you not still striving? You know, because you and I've talked about it over and over again, better. But I realize how much I want people around me that check me and say, you know, not because they're saying something to me, it's the life that they're leading and the way they're doing it causes me to go, you know, I can do more.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of people around you make you feel good.
Right.
I mean, that's just like you said, your friend sending you a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are continuing to check you to basically say, hey, they're not saying it, but you're saying it when looking at them going, okay, I can do better.
Right.
There's more inspiration here.
Well, and that's the thing. I think I sit there and I have that recheck with myself very often about like, what am I doing today? What am I doing to make this better? You know, and you think, and we talk about this podcast a lot, it's like every single time that we have this conversation, every single time that we record, every single time that we do it, it's one more chance to get it out there. And we may not be some huge podcast that gets thousands and thousands of downloads every single week, but we're bringing light to some people and we're helping some people. Nikki's in the chat room here, and I've known Nikki for, God, I don't know how many years now, 3 or 4 years now. And every single day, she's here and she's listening to what we have to say, and we have other people that are here. And it's just like TikTok, it's one of those things where you sit there and you go, well, I'm only getting 300 views on this video, but I'm reaching 300 people I didn't reach before. And we sit there and we think about all those little things, and you could stop posting. You could hope that nothing happens. You could hope that something happens and you could just quit because you decided that it never happened. And it's funny how every time we do it, we're one step closer to that goal that we're reaching. We're honing that skill. We're learning how to be a better communicator. We're learning what people want to listen to. We're reaching people. And this niche is not something that is like completely oversaturated. However, what separates you from those other people? Why would people want to listen to you? Why would people want to know what you have to say? And there are certain people who need it, and you're going to reach the people you need to reach.
Yeah, and TikTok, of course, frustrates me because I've done the same thing over and over again for, 1,500 videos or something. So it's a long time I've been doing the same thing, and my view count goes up and down, and that's crazy because my base has grown exponentially over time. So what is this? Is the TikTok algorithm. They like me some days, they don't. I don't care. I'm searching for the one person that sends me the message that says, hey, I really needed to hear this today. I'm like, perfect. You're the reason I did it. You're the one person. One person, I've said this before, every day is 365 people. That's
and
a lot of people in a year.
What I want to tell you people, that are listening to this too, is to reach out and tell those people that inspire you, that move you. Let them know, because those people that quit are the ones who feel like they're underappreciated. Even though you may appreciate them, you may think that what they're doing is excellent. But I think what you need to do is make sure that, like, you don't take it for granted, because you never know when that person is going to be not there anymore. I try to make it a point to once a day make sure that I compliment someone who has inspired me to do so. And that may be a DM, that may be a message, like a review on a podcast, that may just be a quick message. I see people all the time, like my friend Brad Dalton is on here on TikTok. He's got a podcast, and I see him saying stuff, and I know him personally, but I just am inspired by him constantly when he says some of the things that he's saying. He's talking about, like, he was a baseball coach that I met and I just ran into from a friend. It's one of those 6 degrees of separation that you run into these people in these groups by just sharing your knowledge or living that life or having that integrity, and you put yourself around people who inspire you and will make you better. Sometimes you have to find those people and you have to seek them out, but don't get lost in the fact of all the negative people that are around you too. If someone inspires you, follow them, listen to them, maybe reach out to them and let them know, hey, you're doing a great job and I really appreciate it. I sent Brad a text the other day and I was just like, man, this is just spot on. It's something that has inspired me on a daily basis. And those people need to hear it too. Don't take it for granted. Just like Robert was talking about earlier, is you see what's going on. Like, you see this podcast, but you don't see all the stuff that went into making it happen. You haven't probably listened to 421 episodes. You just saw the one post on TikTok and like, oh man, that guy must be killing it, but not knowing what's really going on because you don't know the whole story. So remember that those people are going through stuff. They're pushing through, they're trudging through, and reach out to them, let them know.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's so many inspiring stories and so many ways to play what I call the reverse numbers game, because most of the time they make the joke about a woman having to kiss a bunch of frogs to find her prince. It's a numbers game. Well,
Right.
Sometimes inspiration is a numbers game too. You have to look beyond all the negative to see the 1 or 2 people that really are doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay. And that's the numbers game. Because here's the thing. If you're trying to be the best at whatever you can be at your age group, I mean, that's saying something. Now, granted, you're not, killing it in the 20-year-old bracket, but who cares?
Yeah.
you are in your bracket, and that's all that really matters. And that inspiration should inspire somebody that's in their 50s and they're competing,
Hmm.
legitimately competing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think that it's important too to revisit some of these things. Like a lot of times you're like, oh well, like chop wood, carry water. I think it's probably been a year and a half, 2 years that I had read that book. And I went back and I say I read, but like I read it with my ears, because I listen to a
Yeah.
lot of stuff on Audible because I think that that's a really good way to be able to catch some stuff. I don't necessarily know that you retain the information as well as you do if you physically read it with your eyes. But it does it, like to me, it's a way to get more in. And I went back to that book because my friend Chuck did, like, he told me about that book and I listened to it. And then as I was talking to him, like I started this new business and he sent me a text message, which that's one of those things that, you can do. He reached out, he's like, man, I'm so happy for you. Anything I can do to help. And that's always where he's at. He's like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And he's not even in the same space as I am. I mean, there are parallels to what we do because he's marketing for the company that he works for and he's doing these things and he's been through that. And, he's trying to figure out what can he do to help. And like, to me, it's like, I almost need to just drive over there and sit down and have coffee with him and just talk to him about what's going on, how it works, what can I do? And maybe he'll spark some information in me that, and maybe I'll help him do something that he's doing. But that's it. It's about that relationship. It's about that networking. It's about trying to figure things out because I'm in my business is a baby right now, and we're trying to grow it and feed it and make it stronger and make it stand on its own two legs. And there, just like parenting, no two kids are alike. No lesson that you give them is going to be the same. They're going to be completely different. And it takes a little bit more or a little bit less with each thing that you do. You've got to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no formula. Every business I've ever started, my business plan is I underestimated revenue and I underestimated expenses.
Hmm.
Okay. And it was like I grew faster than I expected, but it also cost more than I thought.
Yep.
So I've universally begun to understand that it's me trying to be prudent on the revenue side, but it's also me not understanding the expenses get kind of out of hand.
Right.
And so I started to recognize that about myself. And so I started to put a factor on both sides.
Hmm.
Right. But the reality is it's very hard and every business is different. I've
Right.
started several. Every business is different, like you say. Some really surprise you in the fact that they're successful very fast. And others of them you go, really, I thought this would do a lot better.
Right.
Right. And what did I miss in this? Wow, this did. And again, anytime you enter crowded space,
Hmm.
you should not be surprised that you don't do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the big thing about that too is like okay, so you've entered this crowded space and you're expecting to be excellent and you're not, then now you have to start to dissect that. What
Yeah.
makes you different? Why would someone like in a sales, like I'm selling window coverings, why would someone buy from me versus the other company? Because when you start to look through the saturation of the situation, like here, I don't know, there's probably 15 window covering companies, but what makes me different than the other 15?
Mhm.
And what are you doing to make yourself better? And so like I start to think about it's like knowledge, experience. How are you bringing that to your customer? There's these companies that sell, and it's great because my business partner, I'm sitting here watching him and I'm talking to him every single day. And I've sold his product and I was pretty good at selling his product. But because, interior stuff is different than exterior stuff. And I've sold both, but he is solely exterior stuff. He's installed interior stuff, but he's solely like selling exterior. And watching him, going on these appointments with him and listening to him and talking to him about how he sells to a customer. Our product is sold by many people. We sell the same product, but what we bring is the fact that, he's got 15 years of experience. He knows the product inside and out. He knows how to install it better than anyone else. He knows how to, those are the things that make it better. Now you have to prove that to the customer. So what does it take
Yep.
to do that? And it's just like sales, I have proven time and time again that I am good at what I do to these customers, but you have to get in the house. You have to have the opportunity. So what does it take to get that opportunity? What do you have to do?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
hanging out, doing nothing will yield nothing. But going out there and building that rapport with people and reaching out and doing the things that you need to do is going to take care of it. And it goes back to that chopping wood and carrying water. Get back to the basics. Be re-inspired by those things. Revisit some of those things. Like the very first book when I went down this journey, when I left teaching and went into selling window coverings, the very first book I listened to was a Gary Vee book. Now, some people like him, some people don't, but he is over the top, pushing you nonstop. And if I revisited that book, there would be things that caught me last time that I didn't catch the first time, which I may do that because that's what I'm saying. Like if you've been inspired by something, you need to go back and be re-inspired. Think about what got you there. If you're feeling like you're stuck in this rut and you don't know what's going on, what can you do to get back out? Go back to the basics. Go read that book again. Go, sometimes it's go fishing or go do something that spurned those things to you. Start again, try again, and be re-inspired. And maybe you'll catch something that you missed or you'll relight that fire. And you've got to do that every single day.
Anytime somebody talks about the basics, and I even wrote about it in the book, wrote about Jimmy Johnson when he first took over the Cowboys. And I remember the first speech that he gave to the press. He just said, here's the thing. We can't tackle, we can't run, and we don't hold on to the football. He said, I'll fix those three things.
Yep.
Basically, this is what you do to be successful, right?
Right.
It's like hitting a baseball. What is the most important thing? Follow it all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your head on the ball, right? People are like, no, keep your head on the ball.
Yeah.
It's incrementally, you improve incrementally if you just keep your head on the ball. That's the basics again, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're really, really good at the basics, you'll be wildly successful, but you really have to nail them, and you can't get bored with it either.
Right. Yeah. And that's, it's funny because I go through and I make lists of things. Like I think about that too. It's like, make a list. If there's something that you're doing and you can't remember or you're not doing well in it, but you were doing well in it before, make a list. Write down the things that you did and then check those boxes. Are you still doing that? Maybe you forgot about that. What can you do to recheck those boxes and make sure that you're checking those again? It's like a golf swing, when you go out and you play golf, like one of the hardest things to do, and you're taught this in teaching, but you should know this anyway, is to swing a long-handled implement. In a golf, it doesn't get very much longer than a golf club. And you've got this tiny little ball below your feet, and you're swinging this long extension of your arms, and you're trying to keep your wrists locked, your elbows straight, you're trying to do all these little things. But what's the number one thing? Make contact, right? So you have to look down at the ball and make contact. So start thinking about life like that. The first thing you have to do is make contact. And if you don't make that contact, then you start off on the wrong foot. Go back to the basics.
Yeah. And again, it's the ball in golf doesn't move.
Mm-hmm.
The ball's on the tee, right? So, that's part of what you see in life is that life tees up shots for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to keep your eye on the ball and take the shot.
Yep.
And a lot of people won't even take the shot. They tee the ball up and they stare at it and they go, I bet you that I could hit that really long and far. And your answer is, well, then do it.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going, well, yeah, but the last couple times I've swung. I said, repetition. Just keep doing it. Keep showing up.
Yep. And I think that, I can't remember, is it Wayne Gretzky who said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or was it? Yeah.
Yep. It was Wayne Gretzky. Yep.
Yeah. You don't take, you are never going to make any shot that you don't take. That's 100% true. Yep. You must
Michael
swing.
Jordan's the first one that tells you about that. He said something to the effect of, we talked about his miss percentages.
Mm-hmm.
He said, it took these misses for me to be great.
Yeah. And it's so funny because that's it. That's like there are more people who will miss than there are people who will continue to take the shot even when they miss. Just remember that. Like, and you can miss and then quit, or you can miss and then shoot again. It's never going to stop. And that's when I was coaching my daughter in basketball, it was like, okay, you shot. It bounced off the rim. What did you do after that? Did you try and go get the ball, or did you just sit there and pout about the ball not going in the hoop? You know?
Oh, you go get the ball.
You go get the ball. Yeah. And that was the
You go
thing. It
get
was
the
like
ball.
you get that mentality in your head that you're never going to be satisfied with the action unless it's exactly what you want. And then you go back and you try again. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's people who hate Dennis Rodman, but I will tell you what, go watch Dennis Rodman play basketball and don't think about the crazy colored hair. Like, try to get rid of the crazy colored hair or his off court antics, but watch him play the game. Same thing with Michael Jordan. It's those are the people that you watch and you see them, and it's like it's that mentality. Like, I can't remember what it was. It might have been The Last Dance, or I've seen clips about it. But Dennis Rodman would sit there and he would watch, because like every basketball hoop is different. To this point though, like you think about how he thought, watching the ball hit the rim, where it hits the rim, how many times it bounces off the rim, and where does it go, and just playing the angles. You know, you hear outfielders talk about that, the same thing before a game, like going to Fenway Park or going to Oracle Park or going to Wrigley Field. Like, the ball is going to bounce off the wall differently when it hits the wall, and where is it going to go, and how do you react to that? And that's it. Like, these $1 million athletes, the ones that are better are the ones who think about those little things and take care of those little things.
Right. And it's the same thing for us. It was, I was talking to someone and they said, you know, what's different about you is when I send you a message, you actually read it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, why would you send me a message if you didn't want me to read it?
Right.
And her response was, most people don't. They read it and hear what they want to hear. They don't read the message.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yep.
well, you know, there was no point in looking at the message other than, hey, you know. And so that's a lot of this. This is the idea that we're trying to hone our behavior. That idea of better,
Yep.
right? Not best, but better. Just trying to do something a little bit better. And again, it takes lots. And the big deal for us in basketball wasn't the rims; it was the floor.
Right.
Because all the floors were different. The ball would come off the floor different. You dribbled different. You shot different because it made you feel different when you jumped,
Yep.
right?
The,
And
the,
so that was a real big difference. We used to go out and you'd see us, the people that were tacticians,
mhm.
we were walking on the floor to find out where the dead spots were.
Yeah. Grabbing a ball, dribbling on the floor, finding out
Yep.
how much it was coming back up before it was going back down.
Right. And you know, if, for example, there were times at baseline, their baselines were dead. And if you shot off a baseline, remember what's going to happen with your legs. You're
Yeah.
not going to have that support. You're going to be short jumping and you'll be like, why are my shots short? That's because you don't have any lift on the sides. So you have to compensate for that. And it's funny because the rim, like you said, the rim's always the same. It's always 10 feet.
Yep.
It's the other stuff around it that's different.
Right. Yeah. What kind of backboard is it? What kind of reaction does it have? You know, like there's a metal backboard versus a fiberglass backboard versus this versus that. You know, like there's all kinds of things that play into that whole situation that can make things more difficult, you know. So that's the moral of the story today, is that no matter what you're doing, you know, go back and revisit what inspired you to do so. Go back and look at those things and decide why you're doing what you're doing. And remember that no matter what you do, you have to do everything you possibly can every single time and try to make it better. You know, think about the goal that you've set. And as Grant Cardone would say, 10x it. If you're set out to make $100, set out to make 1,000, because you're going to do better than you need to be striving for better than what you think you're capable of, because 100% of the time you're better than what you think you are.
Yeah. And details. Take care of the details. If you take care of the small details, big things usually take care of themselves.
Exactly. Well, Robert, great conversation. I appreciate you hopping on again as usual. We will be back on Monday. I didn't discuss this with anyone else other than you the other day, but we decided that we were going to not do Wednesdays anymore just because it's kind of hit and miss, and we both kind of got a lot of things going on. So we're going to try and bring you the best information and content that we can bring you every Monday. So please tune in. If you have not made or given a review on Apple Podcasts, please do so. It helps us to get that out there. Make some comments on the YouTube posts. If you're seeing them, go watch the long form if you're just seeing the shorts. And we appreciate your support and are happy to see you here.
Absolutely. Have a great week.
Yep.